Hi, my name is Erin O'Meara, and I'm going to be walking you through Activity 2, Heat Transfer. So some of the materials and code that you'll need for this activity. Materials, you'll need a Lunasat, computer with Arduino IDE installed, FTDI and associated cables, and Activity 4.2 worksheet, Heat Transfer to follow along. As for the code, you'll use the same code as the previous activity, which can be found under File, Examples, GLE 2023, Module Sketches, Module 4 Temperature Sensor, Temperature Basic Example. So some background information on the types of heat transfer we're going to work with in this activity. There are three types of heat transfer: conduction, convection, and radiation. You experience each of these types of heat transfer every day, and understanding the different types of heat transfer is important in understanding how the temperature sensor really works. So diving into each of these, conduction. Conduction is when heat is transferred through direct contact between surfaces of different temperatures. So for example, direct contact with a heat source. So for instance, your hand touching a fire. Convection. Convection is when heat is transferred through flow of a fluid. In our case, air. So for example, hot air rising off of a stove or a fire with your hands over it. And radiation. Radiation is when heat is transferred without being in contact with the object. So for example, feeling the heat of a fire not depending on the air rising above it, or feeling the heat of the sun on your skin. So step 0, conduction overview. Remember that conduction is when heat is transferred through direct contact between surfaces of different temperatures. We're going to change the temperature of the temperature sensor using conduction. In our case, using your finger to touch the temperature sensor is a form of conduction. So for this, we're going to plug in the Lunasat and upload the code. So for the code, find File, Examples, GLE 2023, Module Sketches, Module 4, Temperature Sensor, Temperature Basic Example. Once you have that, you can verify and upload your code. From there, you can launch the serial plotter. The serial plotter can be found under Tools, Serial Plotter, and it should open. Verify that the serial plotter is reporting approximately room temperature. Locate the temperature sensor on the Lunasat. Step 2 is the conduction experiment. So first step is gently place your finger covering the whole sensor and keep it there for approximately 30 seconds. Watch the serial plotter to see how the temperature changes once you place your finger on it. It should be increasing. Document the approximate maximum temperature the graph shows in degrees Celsius. Take your finger off of the temperature sensor and watch the serial plotter to see how the temperature changes once you take your finger off of it. Same as before, so you can move on if you feel confident in your activity 1 notes. Step 3 is a convection overview. So since we did conduction, now we're going to do convection. And we're going to change the temperature of the temperature sensor using convection. Recall, it is when heat is transferred through a flow of fluid, in our case, air. So in our case, blowing air across the temperature sensor is a form of convection. So step 4, we're going to keep using the same code in serial plotter setup. You're going to wave a hand or a piece of paper rapidly over the Lunasat to create airflow. This is convection for approximately 15 seconds. Remain at least 1 foot or 0.3 meters away from the sensor while you're doing it. Make sure you do not hit the Lunasat when you do this, and consider using the exhaust fan from your laptop as well. Watch the serial plotter to see how the temperature changes once you start waving air on the Lunasat. Document the approximate temperature the graph shows in degrees Celsius. Stop waving and watch the serial plotter to see how the temperature changes once you stop waving your hand. In step 5, we're going to do our radiation part for this activity. We're going to change the temperature of the temperature sensor using radiation, and recall it is when heat is transferred without being in contact with the object, for example, the sun. So in our case, we'll be warming our hands and then putting them near the LunaSat, not touching the LunaSat. So keep using the same code and serial plotter setup. Warm up your hands. You could rub your palms touching one another together rapidly, or you could run your hands under hot water, whatever is comfortable. Place both hands surrounding, but not touching the LunaSat with the temperature sensor side face up. Watch the serial plotter to see how the temperature changes once you bring your hands around the LunaSat. Document the approximate temperature the graph shows in degrees Celsius, and move your hands away from the LunaSat and watch the serial plotter to see how the temperature changes once you take your hand away. In step 7, explore. So have fun with it now that you know the 3 different types of heat transfer. Before you move on, look for other ways to test your LunaSat using the 3 forms of heat transfer.